Hello fellow Illumineers, it's Bennet here, and today I brought my deck that won me a set champ and also gave me a top 8 in the set champ. It's the so-called Diggy Hole, kind of an amber steel aggro deck. And yeah, I brought you my 60. Technically it's not really a Diggy Hole because the deck originally got created by Bennet Lorcana, and was called Diggy Hole because of the reference to the 7 Dwarfs mine, which is not included in my deck, but we can start and see what other cards I have inside here. So let's start off with the obvious card. It's Cinderella. I have 4 of Cinderella in my deck. She's amazing as a singer 3. I will get to the songs later, but you already know that this card has great potential. You drop her on 1 and have the ability to remove a minion from the opponent in the following turn and, for example, protect your board or get rid of dangerous cards from your opponent. In the late game it's also really nice because you can just slam her on the board and she always threatens a song or some kind of damage, so kind of a high priority target for your opponent. Let's continue with Daisy Duck, also a really important and obvious card in this deck. We are an aggro deck, so we want to get lore as fast as possible. A 1 ink 2 lore quester is perfect for that. She also, and that is really nice in this deck, has 4 willpower, which is important because of our Rapunzel. She heals for 3, so everything that has willpower above 3 is able to get the maximum out of your Rapunzel. So in the late game, when your opponent, for example, has a 3 attack character sideways, you can run into it instead of questing and then use Rapunzel to draw cards. My advice for her: in certain matchups you don't really want to quest. Even if it's a free quest, for example. I have in my mind Amethyst Steel in the first turns, for example, if you don't have like a lore threatening and aggressive line and rather want to win with board and with pressure, or with board presence rather, and then pressure if you are free on board, then you can use her perfectly and she will quest through. Yeah, and now we come to a more to a rarer 1-drop, to a one-drop card kind of. It's Neverland, and in my opinion it's really important in this specific build because in other lists we have, for example, Happy to be a bit more defensive against Diablo or evasive cards in general, and in my opinion Neverland really gives us the opportunity to pressure, and not only pressure on the side of laying characters down, but also presenting something that is always attackable, but you can't be removed by stuff that removes your characters. So it's either they have to decide between attacking, for example, a Neverland or a Daisy Duck. Let's just put them here, 2 4 willpower cards, so one of them will survive. What's also really nice, we will get to that card as well, but you want to have your opponent's card sideways because you either want to attack with Kaloon and collect the lore plus get rid of opponent's stuff and like expand board presence or board advantage kind of. But you also make them turn characters sideways so you can run into them and heal back up with Rapunzel, because normally a good player would know that they can't really put their cards sideways, but because of Neverland they have to, and that's really great. It's also really cool, a really good card against Red, against what is it, Ruby, because when they drop the Be Prepared, you can or when you are afraid of to Be Prepared, let's put it like this, you can drop the Neverland, and if they have no characters on board, they can't full remove your board, they can only remove your characters, and Neverland will collect lore. Also good as an inkable card. Okay, let's continue with the most obvious 2-drop, in my opinion, like one of the best 2-drops in the game, and for Steel also. It's Mr. Smee. He has everything you want in this deck. He has the ability to fast quest with low ink. Also in the late game, just drop him with like 2 other 1 ink cost cards, or together with another 2 ink cost card. You also have the 3 attack on him, which is really helpful in most of the board situations. He can clear, for example, everything that has a 1 on there, because he will get the damage on himself at the end of the turn. So you either want to kill something with 3 attacks, so you kind of get rid of the negative side effect, or you want to remove something with 1 attack, so he can actually survive the attack and potentially take out another card after that. Smee is a perfect 2-drop, super versatile, super good into any kind of situation, or super solid, let's put it like that. Also good to mention that he gets 1 damage at the end of the turn, so if you let him tick for 2 turns and for some reason your opponent can't get rid of him, you can heal back up with Rapunzel for 2, and A, get him back to full strength, and B, draw 2 cards, which is amazing. Quick interruption. If you are enjoying this Lorcana information output, I also offer coachings over at Metafy. I coaching specifically for this deck, Ember Steel Aggro. I also, of course, offer coaching and information about Lemon Lime Discard, my favorite deck. And furthermore, you can also book me if you think you're an average player and want to get better at the game. We will analyze your playstyle together. We will take a look at what you can improve, and I'm sure that you will get out of the session and win more games. So if you want to top 8 a set champs, that's a great start to book a session with me. Look forward to it. Have a good one and have fun with the video. He ignores his own effect when there is a captain and we have actually 2 captains in the deck. Now we get to the point where cards are not in their 4-offs and rather have different ratios, and I will explain why they are ratioed like this. So Piglet, in my opinion, is not a fantastic card. It's a relative situational card, which also already dictates your game plan. For example, if yesterday I played a match and I had Piglet in hand. I started the game, and for turn 1 I had Daisy Duck, and because I had Piglet, I knew, okay, my Daisy Duck is a good quester with a bad side effect, but I will try to pull the aggro line because I have so much lore in the early game. So what Piglet does best is collecting lore in the early game and applying pressure to your opponent, giving you a good head start in lore, probably, or landing you on like 16, 17 before they can finally full clear or get control of the board. And after that you have something like Pete to seal the deal, or cards in general. Against Red Blue, he's really good. It's like one of your most priority cards, but that's the reason I only have him 2 times in the deck, because against other decks that either have the ability to do 2 damage or remove a 2 attack character like Ruby or Steel, you don't get an effect. You play this card, it gets taken out, you're sad and lost 2 ink, kind of. Also, it's really easy to trade him. So if your opponent has a 2-3 on board and you want to quest with Piglet if the effect is up, so you have to kind of sideways, he gets traded off nicely, and that's not that good. So that's the reason why I have him 2 times in the deck. You either have him in the early game and start to apply pressure with him, or you draw into him into the late game, and he's a bit better Lilo, for example, in this case, because he gets 1 more lore. But that's the reason why I only have him 2 times in the deck. I don't want to see him too often in most of the matches. Let's continue with Lilo. I have a really fun mixture of Lilos here in this. I want to max out this one. If you're here and you like the Lilo, this one, let me know in the comments if you do. I personally love her, but I know a lot of people that do not, so I'm interested in your opinion. Lilo is a really nice card because as Amber Steel Aggro deck, we tend to get rid of our hand as fast as possible, because we have good and cheap draw, so we can refill, but there will be parts in the game or parts in most of the matches in which you will run out of hand cards. And for that scenario, Lilo is perfect. For example, in the scenario I mentioned, you got to 17, your opponent got rid of the board with his last or their last B-prep, for example, and Lilo is a perfect card to reapply the pressure without without needing to draw cards, because she's in your discard pile and you can just bring her back easily. I only play her 3 times because I think I don't want to play her. It's like the worst 2-drop on 2 I can play in most of the matches. She's quote-unquote just a 2-lore questa in that scenario. You will only start using her effect later in the game, so that's the reason I only have her 3 times in the deck, because I do want to see her minimum one time in all of the games I play, because in like most of the matches at a certain point her effect will be relevant and even essential to close out the game, but I do not want to play too much of her, and because she's just a 1/2 lore and does not apply board presence or board pressure in any sense, like compared to the Smee with his 3 attack. Okay, so we can continue with the next card. It's also kind of a utility card in my opinion. It's Penny. I play 3 of Penny. Penny is also, in my opinion, a 2-drop which most of the time will not be played on 2. It's a nice card to surprise your opponent because of the resist 1 mostly. Most of the time the heal for 1 is not that important, but the effect of resist, because your opponent plans their turn ahead and they are like, okay, then there will be, for example, a Smee with 2 attack on him, 1 damage on him because of his effect, but then you play Penny and ruin his whole game plan because he is not in range to kill the Smee anymore because of the resist or the heal. Heal is not irrelevant, don't get me wrong. 2 damage heal is good, but because most of our characters in the early game as 2-drops have lower willpower, the heal is not that important. But she also quests for 2, which is the reason why I have her 3 times in my deck. I don't want to play her on 2, except like the scenario you play the Cinderella, you sang something away and you're scared of, for example, a goof, super goof with 2 attacks, so you can protect your Cindy kind of. But she's more interesting in the trade scenario where you have a Smee or the Kaloon on board, and because of Penny you will get 1 more trade or 1 more challenge out of your minions. And for an aggro deck which is very low to the ground, our highest card is 5 ink and we only play 2 of them, so very low to the ground. It's a really nice utility card to mix in your early game and to get value out of your, more value out of your cards, and to build up advantage because of that. We can continue with, in my opinion, the most important card on the draw. It's Kaloon. I play her 3 off because you could easily play her 4 off. In my case, I only play her 3 off. I think I would tend to play more the last copy if I expect a lot of low to the ground or board centric decks, rather aggressive ones, because she's the perfect tool to not only get rid of stuff on the board because she has resist and therefore survives most of the challenges she does in the early game, but she also gives you 2 lore when you banish something, so you can on the one hand clear the board or get advantage on the board, get back into the game through the board, and also progress in your own game with the 2 lore. Also makes your opponent think twice if they want to turn a Diablo sideways, for example, so she makes my opponent play suboptimally and is really nice. Yeah, and goes perfectly. I think I will just add them here because she goes perfectly with Rapunzel's Tower. In my opinion, also a really important card on the draw. I have played with the mine, with the Dwarf's Mine a bit, because I think it's kind of the same spot or slot. But the Rapunzel's Tower is much more much more flexible in what you want to do. You could either use him as a challenge enhancer. So for example, we have a Kaloon on the board with Rapunzel's tower, and now we can suddenly kill a Mr. Smee and stuff. Kaloon would normally not survive, so we can use it as a challenge enhancer, but we can also use this as a protection. For example, if we have a Daisy Duck and a Lilo here, for example, and we would have our 2 lore questers protected with 3 willpower. Also, what's really nice about the tower, the 8 willpower is really hard to clear. There's only, I think, 2 colors or 2 decks rather that are good at dealing with Rapunzel's tower. Amethyst has Crab and Fox, which is of course good, but it also slows them down because Rapunzel's tower comes in the early game and they waste a lot of ink and time if they try to clear it. And I think the most efficient card, or one of the most efficient cards against the tower, is Tramp in Chanadog, because he can boost up a character really high and just eat the tower. So be a bit careful. Think about ways if your opponent is able to clear the tower, so don't, for example, let 3 minions that would die if the tower dies be there. Maybe think about other ways. Okay. Yeah, one last thing about Rapunzel's tower that I thought about after ending the video, which I didn't say, is of course the +3 willpowers technically make every character we have to a valid Rapunzel's target, and that's like really important because even the 1/2 Lilo is able now to get healed through Rapunzel, and since we don't have like millions of high willpower cards in our deck, that's really important. That is just one last thing I wanted to add. But I think that's it about Tower and Kaloon. We finish off the 2-drop section. Oh, by the way, I play 3 of the tower. Arguably, you could also go 1 up in metas where you expect a lot of board-centric board-centric decks. For example, this card is not really good against red-blue. As an example, as a control deck that doesn't really do damage to kill minions and rather use spells or actions and other stuff to kill minions, and does not care about the willpower. In that scenarios, it's not that good. So I went down to 3, so I can still have it in most of the games when I need it. Okay, yeah, let's finish off this 2-drop section with the second most or the best 2-drop in our deck. It's definitely not a generic or a universally usable 2-drop, a very specific use case, but also an essential use case for our deck, because as I mentioned, as an aggro deck, and you can see how many 2 and 1 drops we are playing, we are dumping our hand really fast, and we do want to dump our hand really fast to set up our own board, to set up threats for the opponent, to maybe get a window in which I have 2 lore questers on the board and can just go quest for 6. And Dock in that scenario is amazing, because if you really run out of steam in your hand, you can just drop a Dock and get 2 new cards, which is amazing when you already used your hand to a really good yeah, one last thing about Rapunzel's tower that I thought about after ending the video, which I didn't say, is of course the +3 willpowers technically make every character we have to a valid Rapunzel's target, and that's like really important because even the 1/2 Lilo is able now to get healed through Rapunzel, and since we don't have like millions of high willpower cards in our deck, that's really important. That is just one last thing I wanted to add. So let's continue with our 3 drops. Pretty obvious 3-drop. One that is tied to Ember Steel for, I think, like set 3, because even though he's from set 2, I remember back then the Steel songs have not yet discovered him, even though he's such a perfect fit for this color combination. Again, with the Daisy, we have 4 willpower, so we have the option to get maximum potential out of our Rapunzel heal, because we can get 3 damage counters onto him. He also has 4 attack himself, so he's able to get rid of a lot of cards that are present in the early game, and also survives most of the 3 attack minions. Just thinking about Smee, for example, also Pete here as our next card. He also has 2 laws, so really important to continue applying pressure. He can be combined with 1 cost ink card on 4, for example, so very flexible, also relatively cheap or very cheap for what we want to achieve with our deck. And yeah, really great. Even if your opponent has a 1 attack minion on the board and is able to attack into him to get free attack for another minion, he still took down 1, which is a 1-for-1 trade, and also your opponent had to use 2 actions or like attacks and therefore could not, for example, quest or sing a song. Let's continue with, I think, also, I mean, I keep saying most essential card in the deck, but all those cards are really essential to make the deck work and actually be successful, because as we know, Pete is a perfect card to seal a game. If you manage to get ahead, for example, and you fear a removal in form of action from your opponent, you can just say, nope, I just won the game, it's literally checkmate. And also a really great tool against steal in general, for example against steal song. You can just deny their main game plan to sing a whole new world or sing their damage songs in general and make them play suboptimally, kind of when you put that card down. Be careful though, you only have 4 in your deck and sometimes you wish for more, so do not play this card with no effect if you don't have to, or with no real use of the effect, except if you need to. Let's continue with our songs. We are almost done with the deck profile. You already see how low to the ground this deck is. Really cheap, really easy to combine certain ink numbers, like 1 + 2 is 3, so you can drop 2 cards on turn 3 and so on. We need our songs in this deck, not just with Cinderella, but we also have Pete, for example, the Lawrence. We will have other 4 and 5 drops that can sing. And those are really important because we are able to control the board without losing tempo, because we are able to then sing the song and remove a minion or a character on the opponent's board. Storm in particular is really nice because it redraws us the card. So if we are able to get rid of 1 card from our opponent, we don't really pay the price of losing a card because we get back a card and they lost a card. So we go +1 on card advantage. And also, yeah, the 2 damage fit on a lot of characters, or if your opponent managed to get a good attack into us, we can finish off their minion with Let the Storm Rage on. Of course, what is a bit clunky about this card is the uninkability, because there will be games in which you do not have a valid target, because most of your opponents already know what is coming and rather play a 4 willpower minion instead of a 2 willpower minion, for example. In those scenarios it can be a bit clunky, but if it's too clunky, we still have the dog to get rid of the card, to discard the card and say bye-bye to it and not worry about it anymore. On the same spectrum as this, of course, is Strength of a Raging Fire. It's not only good to remove minions in the early game like we are able to with Storm. I mean, of course, we want to have more damage spells or songs if we can use them with the Cinderella, that's obvious. But furthermore, we have the opportunity to kill off enemy characters that are elsewise not killable for us. For example, Maui Shark is a really good example. We have nothing in our deck that comes close to 5 damage on a ready character, except this card if we have a lot on board. It also rewards us for loading up the board and dumping our hand, because we have more on the board and can make a huge tempo swing. If they're, for example, if they try to play a 5-cost minion and this 5-cost minion gets instantly removed, that's a huge tempo loss for them, and we can take advantage of this. It's also inkable, which is really nice. So compared to the Storm, it can't be too clunky in hand. Sometimes we can just play it without singing it to gain a bit more lore. For example, if our Lawrence wants to crest rather than singing, that's really good. But what's more to say than that? We are almost done. That's the last song in our deck. It's a one-off, World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Normally, I'm no fan of one-offs. In this particular situation, I really like the one-off very much because it kind of serves as a fifth strength when it comes to removing big minions like Maui Shark or Maui, the Rush one, what is it called? I think Hero to All. And in this case, a one-off doesn't appear in a lot of games, so we can't really base our game plan around it or say it's like necessary or essential, but it's a nice bonus card. Normally, if I have a one-off in my deck, I don't want it to be too situational because those situations won't really occur most of the times when I have just one card in my deck that answer the situation. So they don't really come up together as often as possible. But here, for this card, if it comes up, the reward we get is so big that it makes sense to play this card one-off to be better in certain situations, even though they don't come as often as possible or don't come as often as other situations. But it's also inkable, which makes it really good. And you can sing it with the other singers in your deck. Yeah, we get down to the last 3 cards. We have 3 copies of Pluto. It's just a nice curve topper to our very dumping early game, where we set up a big board, and to have the ability to protect the big board with such high willpower and also potentially high strength to, in the process, get rid of something from your opponent's board as well is really nice. We can, for example, take good attacks and make our characters really low, and our opponent try to plan ahead and also has now characters on the board that are able to finish off our characters. But the Pluto as a bodyguard is really nice to cross their plans. And also he's up here already, but also with 5 health, he's also one of the cards in our deck that gets maximum value out of the Rapunzel. I only play him 3 times though because I feel like he's not universally good. He's oftentimes good, but not always good, and on his own he's not that good, so I only play 3 of them. I play 4 of this following card. I just bought the last Rapunzel. My girlfriend gave me $10 to complete the playset, and I used them wisely, even though I had to use more than those $10. Yeah, it's Rapunzel. It's like top 5 best cards in Lorcana. We don't have to argue about that. I was lucky enough to pull a foil one in set 1, which I'm really glad of and always happy to see. It's actually only... No, I have 2 Germans, 2 English, whatever. Card is so self-explanatory that I tend to start talking about other stuff. Yeah, great stat line, 4 ink, 1/5 with 2 lore. So really nice to get us lore consistently, and of course the most important use of her is to be like our 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th dog, or they're in the same pool. Let's just put it like draw. She is able to refill our hand after we, as I said, try to dump our hand and make the most of our hand and apply the most pressure against our opponent, and we can heal back up with her and also draw 2 cards, refill the hand. Of course you will, especially after such a long time, you will most likely face opponents or like good opponents will always have that in mind. So be careful about just numply designing your game plan around her. You do want to have a plan B in case your opponent is not falling into your trap, or you want to set up another trap. For example, with the Neverland, as I said earlier, you can make them open up or actually think about if they have to or not. And sometimes they decide not to open up for Rapunzel, and then you can punish them, for example, with a lot of lore gain through Neverland or something like that. So really important, you want to have her a lot of times in the deck. Most of the time she's actually a keep as well. If you have 1 and 2 cost cards, you can always keep her to guarantee lore. And we come to the last 2 cards. In this slot, that's pretty flexible. I have 3 other cards that could go into the slot. I personally am not a big fan of a 5 cost card and a low ground, a deck that's so low to the ground, because I will have games in which I will just go to 4 ink, and the 5 ink makes it a bit clunky sometimes, or does not fit. But compared to the other 3 options, which are Bagheera, I tested him, I tested Kida, I tested Gantu, which are very specific and niche, or which are very good in specific and niche situations, but I found him the best in most of the situations, because he has such a great stat line. He kind of is a better Pluto in that regard. He's also more stable because he does not lose his attack, and is not easy to remove through, for example, Medusa or something, and especially not through the willpower part with damage. Even the Zeus can get through him, and he's really nice to, in a game where you build a board, for example, you end up with 6-7 characters, you slam down Chenpo, and you are able to quest or do stuff with your other minions, and yeah, go through it. That's it for my deck review of Amber Steel Aggro. I will just call it like that because Digihole is not that it doesn't make that much sense. I don't want to drag it out any longer. If you liked this video, make sure to leave a like or leave a comment telling me what you liked. Thank you so much for watching the videos. If you want to see more of those deck profiles, you can write it in the comments. I'm very glad. And yeah, have a good time. See you. Bye bye.